Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Interesting Modelling Company midweek show. As you can see, we've truly hands across the oceans tonight. We're joined tonight by Mr. Phase Hanger himself, Mr. Mike Reeves, emblazoned in a fine T-shirt this evening, and I have reciprocated with my lovely NASA T-shirt bought for me by viewer Laura. Thank you, viewer Laura. How are you, Mr. Reeves?
I am doing all right. I'm staying busy and getting warm. I'll tell you that. It's getting a little toasty out here in Phoenix, but other than that, really well. Super excited to be here. Glad that you're having me back. It's always a good time.
Pleasure.
And it's nice to get a little bit of an hour-long break from the old workshop just to kind of socialize and actually talk about the hobby.
Well, I think it's a benefit for us because we can sit here and just warm ourselves on the on your presence with the fact that it's absolutely freezing again outside. Honestly, Mike, I've never known a year to actually get colder as we get closer to summer. It's utterly bizarre out there. So big hello to everybody this evening. I think what we're going to do tonight is a couple of things just want to talk about. I've got a kit to show as well, and then I think lob some questions at us, and we will do our best to answer your correspondence.
Absolutely.
And incidentally, to answer one of the questions, I've just got to call it up. I've got to call it up now because I've forgotten what it was. I described tonight's show as a conversational midweek spatchcock. Now, do you know?
I don't even want to know what that means.
Apparently, a spatchcock it's an American term, and apparently it's a chicken dish.
Oh, funny! I've never heard of it, and I pride myself on being a little bit of a gourmet in the kitchen myself. So,
well, I think we'll look forward to the end of the year to you cooking up a spatchcock. So I think we need to move on before we get ourselves into hideous amounts of trouble here.
Yeah, you don't want to hear from the guys over there, the producers.
They'll all start in a minute, and I'll have to disable the comments. Now, some of you may have seen this wing its way across my workbench. Now, this is just a little test project that I've been doing for that Fender FE 180 airbrush, just to see what can be done with it, how you can push the limits of it. This is actually, as befits an inexpensive airbrush, this is an inexpensive kit. This is actually the Hobby Boss Easy Build Focke-Wulf 190 A8, which it's literally about 6 parts. It's one of their kind of throw together models. Perfect, because this has been built and covered in primer for a couple of years now, waiting for a project that I could actually use it to do. So what I'm doing with this one is I'm testing the Fender FE 180 out on it, and I'm actually using the spare decals from the Edward kit for this rather nice late war scheme. But I'll just have a quick whiz through the pictures here, just to kind of quickly talk you through the process. And well, we started off with a yellow tailband and top of the fin, which was done with Tamiya white lacquer, and then Guns RLM, is it 04? It's whatever the color is for the German yellow. Then some Tamiya 1mm masking tape, which is marvelous stuff, just used just to outline everything, and then infilled with Tamiya 3mm. Then it was AK Real Color, one of their RLM 76s, just to get a base light blue down. Then we started trying to be all fancy and stuff, and going in there with the Fender to just break the paintwork up and to create kind of discoloration, keeping it heavy towards the center and slightly lighter out towards the wings. That was about the midway point. It then got another coat of the blue over that to just blend everything in. I'll tell you about the wheelbase in a minute, because I did the cheats route for that. Then, of course, I got things the wrong way around. I should have put the green down and then the brown, but I put the brown down and then the green. So I ended up having to go backwards and forwards. But essentially, just going back and refining these are a soft edge on this scheme. So it did enable me to, test the limits of the of the brush. I think I went back in there again with the brown just to tighten everything up. Then we got into the actually the fuselage areas, which were all free-handed. So the paint was probably about 60% thinner and 40%, I think it was his Guns Sanyo GSI acrylics. That was free-handed. I took Jen's suggestion actually of upping the pressure on the compressor and then seeing if I can dial it down with the Mac valve on this. The Mac valve on this isn't brilliant. It kind of goes from full pressure to nothing, but it does work in a way. It does work, but essentially after a few hours work, you can see I've gone back and tightened up the wing camo. Overall, for a 26 pounds airbrush, it's a little bit spattery. It's. I mean, that picture is enlarged probably about 6 times, and this is 72nd scale. But you know what? It works. It does the job, and yeah. Don't expect it to do the job of a custom Micron, because it's clearly not. It is a fraction of the price of an expensive airbrush. But in terms of something that actually is reliable, and it's quite versatile, and it's actually really nicely built, I continue to be really quite impressed with this little Fengda FE180. So,
great.
Yeah. It's
hey, real quick, I don't want to interrupt, but I saw a comment from Christian Gerard that he's from the area of Spangdahlem and Bitburg and Hahn, and I was based at Bitburg. Christian, thank you for the comment. In fact, I actually helped on this.
Hello.
So sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I just I wanted to catch him before it disappeared.
No, that's fine. Well, I think what we'll do is we'll have a shout out to everybody who's tuned in tonight, whilst I still got my voice today. So hello to Pravel Krupovic, to Anthony Bird, Paul Milligan, Tim Maunder, John Patrick Houston, Ian Goldstraw, Dave Swindle, Rob Herring, Dave Coward, Michael Scott, Stephen Pryor, Martin, John Henry Smith, who's using up all the names tonight, Andy Brennan, David Mummery, Dougal McWoogle, it's my favourite. Lee Souter, Steve Moores, Marino, Christian Gerard, Mark Ryan, Artie Mod, who has a question, which we'll come back to in a second. Mark Wilson, Darren McGuinness, and Drew Manton.
Oh, great!
Never heard of it. Some Somerset bloke.
Some guy
Artie
that's
Mod,
an airbrush order.
Yeah, he's. Question from Artie Mod: will the special hobby welding be doable for a beginner or too ambitious? Very good question, Artie. I will be able to tell you probably this time tomorrow evening, because fingers crossed that lovely Mr. Andrew Hills from Antics in Bristol is going to be dropping one off on my doorstep tomorrow. Nice. So there is every possibility we might be doing a pop-up live tomorrow night. Certainly we'll be taking lots of photographs and showing them. My excitement for this kit is it's off the scales, quite frankly, because I mean, to kind of give you a bit of background, Mike, it's a Westland, obviously Westland Whirlwind. It's from our county here. It's a Somerset born and bred fighter aircraft, and it was one of the first aircraft I actually remember kind of falling in love with and being intrigued with, because my father, when I was about 4 or 5, he, in secret for my birthday, built me a squadron of aircraft models, beautifully finished. And I can still tell you what was in that squadron of aircraft. There was an Airfix Tiger Moth, there was a Frog P-38 Lightning, a Frog Douglas Boston, there was a Keelcraft 72nd scale Hurricane, but one of the models in there was the original Airfix Westland Whirlwind. And just this weird aeroplane with these thin wings and this pencil fuselage and twin engines and this high tailplane, and it was just, this is awesome. What an incredible aeroplane. It's sadly not been greatly served by the kit companies down the years. We've had 2 iterations by Airfix. We've had Special Hobby have done one in 72nd scale. There have been some limited run kits. Trumpets
Airframes did one, didn't they?
Yeah, Classic Airframes did one. So to actually have a a kind of like mainstream 1/32 scale injection molded kit of this. Oh, it's too exciting for words. It really is.
I'm curious if they'll scale it down to 48.
I think if they've, I won't say if they've got any sense, because that sounds a bit patronizing, but I think if they look at the scene and realize that what's the competition, that horribly misshapen trumpeter horror, then yeah, I'd like to. Mike, a question for you. How many 32nd scale aircraft have you built in your lifetime? I'm guessing that was a Strike Eagle?
No. Oh. Actually, it was the Tamiya 32nd scale F-16 CJ. When it first came out, I was given one by a friend of mine that helped on the kit, and he had 10 of them and wasn't going to build them. And I had just started doing afterburner decals, and we wanted to have our very first sheet represented at an IPMS Nationals. So I built that kit in 10 days with sheet 48001, which I actually gave the kit away. And yeah, I've got, you can't really, well, maybe you can. I've got a whole stack of 32nd scale kits. But honestly, for me, especially being a jet guy, for the most part, I say for the most part, I do have some prop stuff that I actually have on the go. It's just so big to display, and you know it won't fit in my case. A 48 scale Tomcat barely fits, and I have to put it at an angle with the wings open. So yeah, I think space becomes a problem for me. But don't get me wrong, I love the scale. And a Whirlwind isn't a very big airplane. 32nd scale, it's smaller than a Mosquito, right?
Oh yeah. It's a kind of
maybe like P-47 size, maybe a little bit bigger.
Yeah, I'd say kind of a little bit bigger than a Spitfire. Yeah, it's kind of it's not massively big, but I think in 32nd scale it's going to be mightily impressive. Let's put it that way.
I actually do have a couple Tamiya 32nd scale Spitfires outside too. So.
Well, I actually have a signed print by Shigeo Koike of a painting he did of Western Whirlwind. When I met the great man, in fact, I was with Tim Mulder at the time when I met him, and what a lovely guy, Shigeo, that is, not Tim. He's dreadful.
Well, no, he was probably wearing a fireman's helmet, right, Tim?
No, Tim. That was Tim knows what I mean. It was just he was such a lovely guy, and you know, to have a kind of conversation in my terrible Japanese and his very good English, but it was just, you know, an absolute joy to meet and shake the hand of the guy who's painted so many of those iconic Hasegawa box arts.
Oh,
it's a bit like I think I told you the story of the time. Actually, ironically enough, the time I met Chris Hadfield, the astronaut. Do you know that story?
I think you told me a long time ago.
I'll bore everybody with that story again tonight. I went to a talk by Chris Hadfield in Bristol about 4 or 5 years ago, and I bought his book and everything, and I sat there, and it was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And at the end of the evening, you could kind of do like get your book signed and whatever. So it was very production line, you know, even though it still took 40 minutes, 40 minutes to actually, you know, get to meet him. So in that time, I'm with a friend of mine, and I'm trying to think of, you know, what I'm going to say, you know, asking him questions and this, that, and the other. And I've got it all set in my mind. I know what I'm going to do, blah, 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 blah. And then finally it comes to my turn, and he stands there and he goes, "Hi, I'm Chris Hadfield," right? And in a split second, I thought, yeah, I know that, mate. I've been watching you on stage tonight, you see. But suddenly the inner 5-year-old said to me, "He's been to outer space, you know, he's an astronaut." And that was it. I was absolutely starstruck, you see. So he goes, "Hi, I'm Chris Hadfield. What's your name?" And I'm just like, "My name's Jonathan." And he's like, "Yeah, sign your book." And he signs the book, and I'm just like, "Thanks very much, thank you." And it was like, honestly, Mike, I've met stars in the past,
Mm-hmm.
but this is the first time I was so dumbstruck because and starstruck because this guy, the hand that shook my hand, had been in outer space. And and I'm, as a kid, I was massively into space and NASA, and there's a photograph of me somewhere in the garden wearing my astronaut's outfit and whatever. I think I was 21 at the time. No, and yeah, just that's that story. But no, it's to meet Shigeru Koike was just such a brilliant honor, and yeah, and he painted a Western Whirlwind. So
That's
but yeah,
awesome.
one 36 scale kit. I've only built one, and that was 20 odd years ago, and that was a Revell Hawker Hunter.
I have that kit as well, which is a beautifully done kit. I know there's accuracy issues, but I think we've had this conversation before too, where accuracy, schmaccuracy, sometimes if it looks like it in some cases for me, that's close enough. It doesn't have to be 100%, because if I spent every minute fixing every problem on every kit, I would be slower than I am now, which is about glacial due to the business. And to answer you, Christian, I do see your question. They're going to be, those pylons are coming back right now. I have live inventory only on the website because I still have about 45 back orders, and the parts that are not showing in production are mostly parts that have to fill those back orders, which I owe to the guys that have ordered it. And I would be remiss if I put them, live and still didn't have their orders filled. So I actually can't see, but right over here is a table that I'm making a bunch of mold boxes. So once I get caught up on my back orders, you're going to see a lot more inventory show up. In fact, I'm adding inventory daily. One thing that I'm also doing, if you look at the top shelf of that little white rolly rack right there, and the ones down below, those are all A10 parts that are not even out yet. I'm building stock as I cast on those. So when I release them, we'll have plenty of stock rather than get stuck into the I can't control inventory and put people off for too long. So just an improvement I'm trying to make with the business is all. But I appreciate the question.
Brilliant. Right, we will quickly rattle on. We'll come back and answer some of your questions in a minute, but we will quickly rattle on to another kit that turned up here at Interesting HQ. And it is this. It's the Italy 24 scale Volvo F16 Globetrotter canvas truck with elevator, which I have here in the workshop. And if we just switch to the workshop camera, essentially, again, it's another one of these Italy kits where everything is molded in color in very kind of Matchbox-esque fashion, in as much as I think a beginner could probably build this kit and not paint it, which is obviously Italy's intention. So what we have here is the most of the cab parts, including this is a nice little detail touch, including, can you see that? It's a little Michelin man.
Oh God.
Yes, it's a little Michelin man there, which I think is a rather nice touch. So there's all manner of things here. There's obviously parts of the floor. You've got the air horns. You've got some grey sprues. This includes some of the wheel hubs and some of the trailer sections and some of the pneumatics. Details really quite crisp, actually. The tread detail on this is really quite nice. And similarly with another, I've got the rubber parts have decided to stick themselves to this. more parts to the cab, which are molded in grey, with including the seats and the console. And then we get rubber tyres. There we go, rubber tyres. Actually, the tread on these is really quite nice. Then we have yeah, absolutely. And then we have silver sprue, which has some of the external details and parts of the engine and the exhaust system. So that's in a kind of like a pearlescent silver color. Then we have more wheel hubs, which I think these are for the actual trailer section itself. And again, detail on these is quite nice. And a little bit of flash, but nothing, nothing that's really quite frightening. Then we have an absolute pile of black sprues, which includes our mud guards, parts of the axle, more of the pneumatics, most of the chassis, leaf springs, which, as you can see, the parts count for this kit is starting to stack up quite a bit. And we've got engine here, and we've got more cab details, fan, rocker covers. Actually, the engine detail on this is actually really nice, and I could quite imagine Industrial Light and Magic kind of going through these kits and stripping the debris. Yeah, well, funny you say that, because we almost have a Millennium Falcon shaped part here, which is rather amusing. Steering wheel. This is left-hand drive only version. This model, so it's European versions and American versions only. There's more bits there to do with the trailer, and another black sprue, which is more. That's the base of the trailer where the tilt comes onto. We've got wing mirrors there, ladder, and finally 2 more sprues. A large sprue in grey, which is the roof and floor of the canvas tilt itself, which is it's actually quite nicely molded with this kind of sag, which for once, I know people don't like this on biplanes, but this is actually apt for a 24 scale vehicle, especially for a vehicle like this. And finally, we have a rather bright blue section of parts with the canvas itself. And this is actually really, again, it's really nicely done. You've got the tie downs here. This is all really nice and subtle. And again, it's molded in color, so for the beginner or people who really don't fancy kind of throwing paint at this, you can actually get a pretty good result. Molded it, just building it from the box without painting it. Again, it's kind of like it's the general market. You've always got to bear in mind there is a market out there which isn't us. Clear parts. I'm not going to get them out the sprue. And then finally, a really terrific decal sheet with huge, great Volvo stickers on there. It's nice and glossy as well, and it does give you options for. Just going to try and get the finishing diagrams. Oh, they don't actually tell you what the. That's a good start. Okay. No.
Mirror the right, or mirror the left side on the right side.
Yeah, precisely. They don't tell you what the number plate variants are for, so we will work this out for ourselves. We have Germany, we have France, we have Sweden, we have Finland, we have Denmark, we have the Netherlands, we have Spain. Not sure what A is. I'm sure one of our viewers will put us right on that. Got more than that. I think that might be Ireland. I'm not entirely sure. Different speed limit signs on there. The dashboard. It's really nicely done. I mean, I think this is printed by Zanchetti in Italy, so they are next to Cartograph. They do pretty much the best decals in the world. It's rather beautifully done. As I said on the Sunday show, I've never built any of these big truck kits before. So I am actually looking forward over the next few months to kind of, knuckling down with these and actually kind of building them, because they are way out of my comfort zone.
Oh, believe me.
And I know you're a fan of doing things out of the comfort zone as well. So, it's going to be quite frightening to actually sit here and think, What I got myself into? This I can grasp. I can understand this, but this is a whole new world. But it's got to be done.
Well,
It's
funny you bring that up, and I happen to have a couple things handy.
gone.
Speaking of out of the comfort zone.
Oh, I say, that's Ebro, isn't it?
Oh, it's beautiful. And now with because he used to work for Tamiya apparently, and still does some contract work with them. I know he's helped on some of their re-releases recently, and that's moved pretty close to the top build pile. And my next to latest acquisition,
Pow, nice.
is I've always wanted to build a cafe racer,
Mm.
and it's going to happen. But I've got this guy waiting too. So,
Oh, is that the kinetic kit?
Yeah, but I'm a nut for Star Wars. So a friend of mine, he's got the Darth Vader head.
Oh, right. Oh, that's good.
So I've wanted this sheet for forever, and a buddy of mine just sent it to me. So those three have moved up the high onto the build pile. So I'm pretty excited to finally take some time at night. I'm working on getting at least 2 hours a night or 1 hour a night just to get some bench time instead of working myself to death. But yeah, I can't wait. And I got all the extras coming for that little Honda RC166. So I'm giddy with excitement.
Well, I broke my bike duck. Was it last year or the year before last? So I built the little Tamiya, the little monkey motorcycle.
I remember that.
That was a steep learning curve, but it was fun. And when I've kind of had conversations with Andy Farmer with the hobby company with regard to anything that needs done for future exhibitions and shows, as and when we start doing them again, I keep saying to him, Andy, any Formula One stuff that needs building, because I really want to build a Formula One car. And in fact, Andy's daughter works for Williams. She goes all around the world and does all the F1 stuff with Williams. She's a phenomenal success story. She is. But yeah, I keep plugging away there. I've got to say, Mike, we've got a little bit of a technical problem here at the moment, so I just need to go and deal with that. So bear with me a second.
No worries. Hi, everybody. Oh God, I gotta go.
Don't be like that.
Well, at least you don't look like you're in
work, especially to be here. No, I didn't really. I did end up taking half an evening off work. But how are you, Mike? All right?
I'm doing good. How are you, buddy?
Yeah, good. Yeah, good. Bit tired. Working too hard. That might be an exaggeration, obviously. But no, I should be at work, but I got a bit hacked off with it today, shall we say? And
sometimes you need that little bit of a break.
Yeah, it was only I had a festival get cancelled on me last week, so that meant I got 3 days of my annual leave sort of recovered. So I just thought, I'll take half a day's annual leave today and just go home and do stuff. I knew I had a package with something nice in it waiting for me at home to pick up. So it wasn't a terribly difficult thing to make. Sorry?
Is it 30-second scale?
Yes.
Is it maybe from the Czech Republic?
No, from Ukraine, actually.
Well, is that where it was shipped from, or was it manufactured in the Czech Republic?
What is this? 10 questions? Is it? Are we under a quiz now? Are we? Is this official?
Is
this
quiz night?
Pub quiz night? Is it? No, the one from the Czech Republic arrived on Saturday.
Oh.
No, I lied. Monday, and this one. So yeah, the Whirlwind turned up on. I picked the Whirlwind up on Monday, and the ICM QE Cobra turned up today.
Nice. How is it?
And it's fairly typically ICM, I have to say. It's absolutely superb. But as with me and 30-second scale stuff, now I just sit on it and wait for people like Quinter and all those sorts of people to start doing details for it. Seat belts and instrument panels and all that sort of stuff. But it's what you get in the box. ICM are knocking it out of the park these days. They really, really are. They're well up there with the best the best in the world now, and they're so consistent in terms of every last detail on this Cobra is just, pin sharp. There's no fading in and out of panel lines or anything like that.
Right.
Everything is absolutely pin sharp.
It's not like the old ICM where it was more limited run feel.
No, it's for the last probably, I would say 6 or 7 years, ICM have sort of ascended to being one of the premier manufacturers in the world now. Without a doubt, the quality of their stuff is just. I'll buy it sight unseen. Put it that way. That's how good they are these days. If they announce a model, I will just if it fits in with what I generally like,
Right.
So I've already got stuff like the Broncos that are due this year on pre-order and all that sort of stuff. Because a good 48 scale Bronco at last.
Yeah, I like. I think the Broncos are going to be a huge seller, especially the D model.
It's one of those ones that it kind of it's a bit odd that it's there was that Hazmat or whatever Productions one a couple of years ago. They had well into design, and then that all kind of fell apart in the Chinese model wars of 2019. I like to think of it, when all these companies started infighting and it all started falling apart, didn't it? For a lot of them, which is where that kind of SU-33 split off, and we've now got several kits from the same base to all of that, haven't we? But yeah, I mean, I think, really, I know what you're saying about the D, but for me, I think the A is the one has had the most exports, the most different color schemes, all those incredible Vietnam color schemes, and that's US Air Force, Navy, and Marines.
We've got a couple of them out here, A models that are for the Bureau of Land Management. They fly as spotter planes for big tankers for all the fires that we have, and they got some really spectacular colors on them.
Yeah, they're white and red, aren't they? Mainly.
Yeah.
But they're but yeah, it's well overdue to be done, and the fact that ICM are doing it gives me nothing but confidence. It gives me confidence if I have to do a difficult camouflage scheme, I can basically do it in sub-assemblies and bring it all together without any worries. You could do the booms and you could do the wings separate from the fuselage pod and all that sort of thing. And I'm fairly certain it'll all come together at the end with minimal trouble. That's how good ICM are these days.
I was just checking the price of that Cobra online, and that 32nd Cobra is kind of nestling anywhere around the £50 mark, which is not bad for a big 32nd scale helicopter. But I did that the O2 that they do, push me pull you in 48 scale. I think that's silly. I think it's about 25 quid, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's 25, and the Bronco is being advertised for around 30, which is really good value for. I mean, it's not a massive aeroplane, but it's still a twin turboprop, twin boom.
Well, there's a lot of engineering there. I mean, when you think about all the part breakdown and things like that they have to do, it's not a Mirage 3. I mean, there's a lot of complicated shapes involved. Having that much, it's a busy airplane.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot of minor detail variations throughout its life as well.
I just wish they were easier to get here.
Is it really? I didn't realize. This is a thing. I think we tend to have all sort of gone into our own little bubbles in some ways in the last few years, and I just it doesn't occur to me that stuff that I just order online is difficult to get for you guys.
Well, and it seems, I mean, obviously with the pandemic and things like that, shipping has definitely been haphazard, if you will. But I couldn't tell you the last time I saw an ICM kit, a kinetic kit.
Which is, I mean, because
kinetic is a new trumpeter and hobby boss kits on a hobby shop shelf, let alone online.
That's well, it's quite depressing for one, but it's actually quite surprising. And I know Kinetic are setting up their own US distribution side, aren't they? they're going to be setting up their own to deal with their own distribution, which should hopefully mean that at least you'll get easier access to them. But it just doesn't occur to me that you guys in the US would have trouble getting hold of this stuff.
Well, and it was really eye-opening when 8, 9, 10 years ago when we visited and we saw you guys, and Nige took us to a few of the hobby shops, even his local shop up in where he's at in Chester, had more selection of things that I can't find here on a hobby shop shelf. I mean, finding Airfix here is near impossible.
It's strange, isn't it? I mean, I think perhaps us in the larger Europe, we perhaps take this a little bit for granted these days, possibly.
Well, and you think that, I mean, even now I saw that the postal restrictions are being changed, thank goodness. I think that you also have you are spoiled because it's not as expensive for Europe to ship to you guys as it is for them to ship to distribution here. Maybe the Far East, I could be wrong, but we just don't seem to either have the gumption to get that stuff and to stock shelves, or the delays are real. So it's hard to say. I mean,
yeah, I mean, I think possibly the other factor in it is that I haven't had a local hobby shop for 30 years. So
right.
It just doesn't occur to me where my stuff's coming from when I order it.
Well, and you have Hannons, which is, I mean,
we do have Hannons, and I do use Hannons, and there's other shops. But if I want something like I wanted the ICM MiG-25, the fighter variant they've just recently released in 72nd last night. So I went on to eBay, found one, and bought it. I don't even know where it's coming from.
I've done a lot of that.
I honestly don't. I think it might be Model Hobbies, but I don't know, because all I looked at was the price and the postage, and the postage was free, and it was a good price. Click buy, and that is literally my involvement with it until it turns up.
Well, bringing this thing back into play, I bought that on eBay from a store in Japan. The kit cost $31, and the shipping was free. I couldn't go local and find it for less than $50 or $60 just for the kit. Yeah, I had to wait a little bit longer. I don't care. It gets here when it gets here.
I mean, that's quite often. It's you'll choose the cheapest shipping because it's not like I haven't got other stuff to build.
Right, unless it's something that you really want to build, like your Mirages that you've been getting. I know that you're kind of a Mirage-aholic.
Like that, you mean?
Speak of the devil.
No, that's just an illusion.
Yes, that's my bench right now.
You don't want to see my bench. It's got 2 F-117s on it.
Oh, you've been building that for a while, haven't you? The Tamiya one, isn't it?
Yeah, this one. This one's mine. And then I posted a photo of my son building a model the other day. It was an A10,
yes.
The Hasegawa 72nd scale, and he went to the fuselage assembly, and there were 2 left fuselages. Right. So, and good luck finding that kit. We bought it at a flea market for $10 or whatever. So that one went into the bin, and he's out looking at his stuff, and lo and behold, walked in with you. Sorry, it's upside down. The
Academy one. Yeah.
So we're doing a dual F-117 build, which is kind of fun.
Mike, I've just realised I've got up in the attic. I've got the Academy 72nd scale A10, which is kind of it's best way to describe it. It's a Hasegawa tribute band.
It's a knockoff.
You may say that. I couldn't possibly comment.
It's a Hasegawa knockoff with recessed panel lines.
Right.
and softer detail in some parts.
I say, if you want it, it can be posted across to you.
I'd be happy to pay for postage and for the kit. So,
well, you have the kit. It's sat up in the attic doing nothing. So, if Colin can make use of it to resurrect his build, then I'm quite happy to ping it across to you.
Certainly.
One less kit, thankfully.
I'm doing the same thing. I've given away so many things. I've got a box outside that I have to get out to Spencer with probably 6 kits and some Verlinden figures, for his Merkava, and I just got to get to it and nail it.
I think quite often these days when you're trying to send stuff abroad, it is the postage that makes you balk at it, isn't it? It's kind of, I'm quite happy to give stuff away, but when you look at the postage and you realise that it's like $100 to post, something, a reasonably medium-sized kit to the States.
Right.
It's just because they've jerked around with the postage rates and all that sort of stuff so much in recent years. I don't know how you deal with it as a business, Mike.
Well, sometimes I gotta take the hit. I try to keep my postage as affordable as possible. I charge $14.75 for basically anything overseas. The problem with that is the second it goes from 7.9 ounces to 8 ounces, my cost is now $24. So I eat quite a bit. But I also know, and I know somebody had mentioned looking at the 48ers for my stuff. And I was sending to them for a while. But again, with all my back orders and things like that, it's not feasible and fair to my retail customers for me to send to a distributor when they're still waiting on their parts. So
yeah. Which I think is decidedly honourable of you.
Well, and eventually I'll go back to shipping to some of the big vendors. The problem is, and I had this conversation, I can't remember who it was with the other day. Hannett's, if they order from me, they will clear literally everything and then some out. What the heck are you doing? You all right?
Yeah, no, I'm just adjusting this.
They'll order $6,000-$7,000 worth of stuff for me in one shot. Well, the amount of labor to fill that order.
I was going to say that's a problem, isn't it? You're always the victim of your own success there, aren't you?
Well, and I'm a one-guy show.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this too. And I certainly didn't. I wanted to freeform this a little bit more, but I've talked about bringing on employee, someone to help, but then I got to spend time training. Then I have to make sure that their quality is up to what I expect. And things do get by me. I get an email once in a while. Hey, this was short shot. No, I'll throw one in the mail. Sorry.
Yeah.
But I also have to trust them in my home. And therein lies the problem. I have to know you well enough that, when my wife and kids
because you're not running your business from a business location. You're running it from your home.
Yeah, I am a literal garage shop.
Yeah.
So, and then I have to pay payroll taxes, and then I have to pay insurance, and people want stuff at a reasonable price. Well, then the price is going to go up because I have to compensate for that. So, anywho, it is what it is, and we're getting there. Like I said earlier, I've got live inventory now, which is nice because I get an order. I had one last night, shipped it this morning.
Well, what's very noticeable about your business particularly is that of all the ones I've seen from the United States in the last 15 or 20 years, yours is the one that appears to not be a flash in the pan, not be a here today, gone tomorrow, back again next week. It's not kind of you don't kind of jump around. Oh, I'm turning orders off for 2 months because I need a break, or I'm just the kind of stuff I'm talking about, where people show fantastic images and then it's available for 2 days and stuff like that.
Right.
and the one thing, although stuff comes in and out of your range as it would with any kind of model. product, the range remains.
Yeah,
you know,
in fact, I had a question earlier. Are the F-15 pylons out of production? No, they're just out of stock until I fill back orders because I owe those people things that they paid for, and I will get them out. I'm slow as as a snail in some cases, not because I want to be, but let's say the last new releases I had were in January, and it was mostly F-15 stuff. I am still behind on those releases because I had no control over my inventory. So basically, if I had 50 sets and they were gone, I could get people in the next few days order 300 more. Now I've got an issue of time and casting and molds and things like that I have to work on. So my website didn't allow me to control the inventory. If I wanted to control the inventory, I had to delete the product. Right. Since I've upgraded my site, I can literally I got one of these in stock right now, dude, and sure as anything, it gets to work. But it's all going to change once these back orders are out for me, and and I know I've been called to the carpet a few times for taking so long. It's a victim. I guess I'm a victim of being more successful than I thought I was going to be.
And that was going to be my next question. When you started this out, as two mics as it originally was, did you ever foresee this level of success?
No, and frankly, Drew, I mean, I kind of look back at what you just said about how there's so many flash in the pan garage businesses, right? They'll come and go, they get burned out. Most of those guys probably have real jobs on the side. They have a 40-hour work week, which I had with two mics.
Yeah.
And then at night I was casting. But I only had 60, 50 parts. I've got over 100 now.
Yeah.
And many of them are not just a simple little intake set. It's 10, 12 pieces per set. And it's a very time-consuming process. And it's also my career. I don't have a 9-to-5 job anymore. This is my job.
Well, Mike, you know how to become a millionaire in this business, don't you?
Yeah, you spend $1 million.
No, you start out as a billionaire.
Right.
We got a question from the floor here from Anthony Bird. He says, "Question for you chaps," which is being very generous. Quinta 3D printed panels. Am I seeing Edward doing something similar now?
Yes, you are.
Yes.
Basically, yes, you are. Is it Kits at War as well are doing them? It's one of those. It's one of those technologies that Quinta were the first to market with it, but as a technology, it's just out there, so people pick it up. It's like you're seeing more and more stuff, 3D printed stuff being sold now, as well as being used for masters. The technology's out there, and you'll be seeing more. You'll be seeing more of it rather than less of it in the coming couple of years, I think. And obviously, Edward with the kind of market penetration Edward have got, there's kind of a danger that they could swamp other valid manufacturers like Quinta. I hope that doesn't happen. I hope Quinta retain their kind of market share and market niche. But
I think they did that. I think Edward did that in a big way, even with Ares or Ares, or whatever you guys want to call it. Once they hit the Brasson market, it's pretty much a go-to.
Yeah,
and it's still cheaper than everybody else because they can do it cheaper because of, like you said, they have that market reach, and they're the big boys on the block when it comes to stuff like that.
I mean, it always amazes me sort of Edward's journey from their original stuff in 1990 and through the years to now, where you kind of on the scale of large scale manufacturers with market penetration, it's Tamiya, Edward, and that kind of they've reached that kind of level, haven't they?
Absolutely.
And it's one of the biggest success stories in modeling ever, I think.
I
Not
can
to
remember.
mention, they're just a bunch of good people.
Yeah,
I've known Vladimir for years. You know, he's been to my house. He's eaten dinner at my house, and we took him up to, you know, we took him down to the P. Museum. Just a wonderful group of people. Them, and the guys from Special Hobby.
Yeah.
Have really made a difference in the hobby, so to speak.
I was going to say, I think Edward, they made the leap from being kind of slightly in that limited run camp to suddenly being mainstream players. And I think the kit that did it, I think you remember this, Drew, was their Aerocobra.
Yes. Yeah.
That was an absolute notch upwards. And in fact, I remember I've still got it up in the attic. I bought the kit at Scale Model World, and we were looking at it, going, that really is that really is a kind of like a leap forward for Edward. That was Scale Model World 2000.
Yeah.
So I was thinking 2003 for some reason. It doesn't go. It's 21 years. That
I think it was even before that, because then they came out with the Mirage 3.
Yeah, I mean the Mirage 3.
The IPMS Nationals here.
Yeah, I think that was 2004, wasn't it? The Mirage.
I think that was 04 when the Mirage came out.
Yeah, and the reason I remember that being them was because I know I'd only just joined the police when I joined the police the end of 2003. I know that kit came out in the first year of when I was in the force. But yeah, and that was another leap forward, and then. And they've just continued on this upward trajectory ever since then. But they play a very canny game. They still have no problem using other people's toolings to allow them to get a topical subject out. They're playing a very, very canny game.
Oh yeah, I mean, when they're re-releasing kits with 4 different pieces of resin and a tiny photo etch and maybe a mask set, and mark it up $60 more than the retail was on the kit, and they're selling out.
I have to say, for the most part, if Edward release a kit as a Profi pack and then release the Weekender, I always think it's worthwhile spending the extra to get the Profi pack for the extras you get in there for the masks and all that kind of, and the etch and the increase in variant choices and stuff. I always think the extra £5 or £10 is less than what you'd spend to get those parts for the Weekender.
Well, especially if you add postage.
Yeah,
it's funny you say that, because the Profi pack, their Profi pack 190A8, will be donating its decals for this scheme, which I took from the Edward kit to just slap onto this little Hobby Boss one for this Fengda test model. So thank you, Edward. And I can still finish the Edward kit, because they give you quite substantial decal sheets.
Well, there's about five variations, and there's about 5 different.
But also, I think there is extra stencils in there as well. So
yeah.
Well, and Drew, kind of tracing back a little bit when you were bringing up that the 3D printed parts as masters and as product. For me, I'm doing both in one.
Right.
Those are 3D printed fans for the A10. That's a 3D printed master, but they're so easy to cast.
Yeah,
I can cast 12 of them at a time, and it doesn't cost me as much to cast. Oops, as I drop it, I'm like John with an airbrush. As it would be to
shots fired.
As it would be to print in the in the 3D printer.
Yeah,
because printer ink is still not inexpensive. You know that. And a liter or a quart doesn't go very far in the long run.
No.
So,
because even with most of the resin casting you do, a large percentage of that is still used for the casting blocks and stuff like that, isn't it? If by volume.
Well, look at that. I mean, that's a big.
There you go. There's more casting block there than there is part, but that is also something you have to do.
That's courtesy of Nigel Poole, by the way. That casting block.
And it's the same with 3D printing. It's you to get proper support for the part. requires quite a lot of, extraneous material that you're not going to see in the kit when you've done it.
Here's a perfect example. That's an A10 instrument panel and glare shield, but look at all that support material.
Yeah. But it's just absolutely, without that support material, it'll just distort.
Right.
You don't have you don't have any option.
Exactly.
And I think people need to factor in that if that part, I look at the slicing programs I use, and it gives me an average cost of each part. But if it says if this part is costing 9p to make, is using 9p worth of resin, 6p of that is support.
Right.
So, and people don't often factor that sort of thing in. They're just looking at the final part because what's supporting it, and the same with resin castings, is effectively thrown away. They don't really factor that into the costs.
Well, and Tim Monder and I had this conversation over on the Wiltshire page on their live weekly club meeting. And him and Tim Perry and I basically said, the great thing about the 3D printer for us, because I'm learning the CAD, which is the thing that most people are going to be afraid of. They're going to get into a CAD program and go,
well, I mean, John will tell you how many years he was nagging me to start learning CAD. And when did I start doing it? Well, less than 2 years ago. And, I'm still, I look at the stuff that Rich Van Zandt does and John Chung and people like that. And I know the A10 stuff is by Richard, isn't it?
Yep.
And I kind of look at that and I just think I'm never, ever going to have that level of ability. But that said, the stuff I'm doing for me is working.
Where's those F4 nozzles, by the way? They're not in my email.
Hang on. Let's move that out of the way. So,
I think those look really, really nice. Perfect scaling.
Yeah, I mean, it took a little bit of work, but I ended up actually splitting them into 2 parts. So you've got the exhaust liner there, and if it's scaled right, it just clips into place there.
That fit.
So yeah, it's but I guess I'm part of me is, and this is what you end up with when you're printing like I'm printing. You just end up with big buckets of bits like that. God, £1,000 bombs. I've got more £1,000 bombs than the RAF.
That's not hard.
Well, no, not these days. No.
My point being about the CAD is that so many people are afraid of it. They're going to buy a 3D printer thinking it's going to be the neatest thing and just push a button and you have a part. And they're going to end up realizing CAD's a lot harder. And then all they're going to do is download stuff like this.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people are quite happy getting their STL files from, from online places and just printing stuff out like that. I guess we represent a different part of that in that we want to learn how to make our own parts. We want to be able to start from scratch and do our own parts. But I would say, apart from people being scared of learning CAD, once you actually start, you realize that getting basic stuff done is basic.
Spencer did a great job.
Yeah.
He was actually ahead of me in a span of 3 weeks. I couldn't believe what he was drawing.
Absolutely. And it's just the biggest thing with 3 dimensions, working in 3 dimensions, is thinking in 3 dimensions.
Right.
Once that clicks in your head that you are working in 3 dimensions and you start thinking like that, suddenly everything starts to make sense a bit more. How you would, how you generate shapes and how you go about geometries and stuff like that. And from then on, you just start trying stuff and seeing if it works.
Right. And then comes one of, how do I make it print?
Yes. Yeah, very much. And I've had a discussion like I can't remember the gentleman's name now. Johansson something, I think. Well, but he was doing a BL755 cluster bomb, designing it and printing it. And he sent the STL to me to try out, and we went backwards and forwards for a few iterations of it because he had designed it to scale. I was printing it out and seeing where the failures were, and then having to go back to him and say, "Yeah, you need to scale this up in order for it to print effectively in this scale, because whilst yours is actually to scale, it won't print,
right? Because
it's too, the fins are too thin or something like that, and so you're still looking at, pushing the limits of where you can get away with, of what you can get away with."
Right.
Whilst having to still get a successful print. And you sort of like, and this is where I've said repeatedly that what you were saying about the people who are getting a 3D printer and sort of buying or getting STLs offline and just printing miniatures and stuff, they're doing a very, very different thing to us.
Right.
The people like John and Richard, to a lesser degree me, and Mr. Parker, we're all really pushing the limits of what this can do. Immediately we start using it.
Yeah.
We're
there we go. Comment from Richard Van Zandt, who says, I never thought I would be where I am with 3D design either, just learning by a series of steps.
And Richard's stuff, just every time I look at the A10 stuff that he's done and stuff like that, and I believe Richard does some LAU7 launchers. I'll have to talk about doing 72nd scale ones of. But yeah, I mean, he looking at the stuff he's done, I think, my God, I'm never going to be that good, but I probably will be. It just takes more sitting down and playing with it.
Oh, and don't get me wrong. I was talking to Rich online the other day. We were having a little chit chat and kind of figuring out how we're going to release the A10 stuff and what order we're going to do it. And he's a very prolific model builder. One of the best, and I know, Rich, I'm not blowing smoke. You're one of the best bot builders I've seen with the production that you put out. And he shows up to the IPMS Nationals with 15 masterpieces every year. This year, he's going to have 2 models because he's spending so much time loving the CAD stuff and providing and selflessly providing this guy amazing parts, very humbly and knowing that I'm going to do my best to showcase his work, because he simply doesn't have the time or the gumption to do the resin and all that, the packaging and all. And he's been very selfless about that, so I appreciate that. Same with John Chung, who I know is watching, Mr. Space Shuttle. And that's a whole different realm. With John, I have never seen a human being, and again, John, I'm not kissing your butt. I love you like a little brother, but I've never seen a human being do what he can do with stretch sprue. If you saw his FCK1 and what he did here and in the cockpit, and all the stuff that he helped me and provided for the Tomcat stuff, absolutely flipping mind-blowing. And he's he did the FCK1 nozzles for me in 3D, which are actually selling a lot better than I thought they would, because it's kind of a niche airplane. But his work that he does with his hands, not requiring a 3D printer.
Guys, my camera's about to go. I'm just going to change the battery, so I'm going to switch to another.
Look, how exciting. He's got a little red light flashing here.
Isn't that cute?
It is. Yeah, talk about prepared.
I really like that Mirage, Drew.
Hey?
I love that Mirage. I love that scheme on that kit.
God, I hope this battery is charged.
Well, whilst Drew's having battery issues, I did mention on this 190 the cheat that I did, and we'll talk about it now. The wheel wells that I had to paint in RLM 02 after I'd already painted the undersides. I should have masked these first of all, painted and masked these, and then gone over it with, then gone over with the blue. However, what I ended up doing was I dug out my Model Air paint, my Vallejo Model Air, and they do a very nice RLMO2. So I sprayed that freehand into those wheel wells, and didn't worry about the fact that I was getting overspray from that onto the edges of the wheel well. Then it was just a case of getting some of the Vallejo airbrush cleaner and a cotton swab and just removing the excess, because the Vallejo airbrush cleaner does not affect Mr. Color paint.
Nice.
Mr. Color lacquers. It's not going to touch it. It's not going to eat into it. Nothing. So it was just a case of going around the edges, getting rid of the overspray, and there we have some very neatly painted wheel wells, which I could have masked them. I could have painted them first and masked them. No, I just went the absolute lazy cheats route, and it works. It just absolutely works. And I think, as I said earlier on, you can see now where I've concentrated that shading into the centers and kind of feathered it out towards it. To be honest with you, this is more than I should be doing with this model, because this model is just a test model for the for that airbrush. But if you're going to do it, you'd like to try and do these things properly. But cheap airbrush, cheap kit, this is
still having fun.
Absolutely having fun. Right, I think Drew's resolved his although he's lacking focus at the moment.
Well, that's
not for the first time, to be fair.
Right, Drew, question. You've got the Special Hobby Whirlwind. What's your initial impression of it? And don't go, yeah. I mean, what is your initial impression of the kit?
Beautiful. Really nice. Really nice. Yeah. I was listening to you discussing it earlier on, and you were trying to sort of find a size comparison.
Mm-hmm.
It's about the same size as a Tempest.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It's about the same size as a Tempest. It's a very, very compact aeroplane. You have to bear in mind that those Peregrine engines were only about 950 horsepower each.
Yeah.
It wasn't a. People say they should have re-engined it with a Merlin, but that would have been, massive overkill on an airframe of that size. Having said that, the Hornet probably isn't much bigger, and that had Merlins as well. So.
But the wing on the Hornet was bigger, though, wasn't it? Deeper.
The wing on the Hornet was more plank-like. It was had a broader chord. The wing on the Whirlwind is actually quite a narrow chord wing. But no, the model actually looks really. Again, I'm going to sit and I'm going to wait and see if master models are clearly going to do 20mm cannon barrels for it.
Is the fuselage one piece?
Yes.
Well,
can you hold it up?
I haven't got it here. It's in another room.
Mike, we can actually go one better here, because what we're going to do is we are going to bring up on screen the instructions. Can we all see that? Yes, we can. Jolly good. These are the Special Hobby instructions. So that gives you an idea. The fuselage is one piece. There we go, with a separate rudder. The wings, blimey, the wings are one piece, upper and lower. Good
John,
Lord.
if you mute me for a second, I'll go and get it.
Mute you.
Well, take me out of the.
Yeah.
Why don't you just get up and go?
Pow. There we go. He's gone.
Don't bring him back.
Exactly. And you can see there are bits and pieces there which they say don't use, which is rather curious, because there's only really one version of a Whirlwind, including an instrument panel. I'd like to know what the story is there. But just kind of scrolling through the construction process, and this looks gorgeous. This is absolutely gorgeous. I mean, I've got some detailed references on the Whirlwind, so I look forward to perhaps adding some bits and pieces to mine. But this doesn't look like it's going to need that much. Look at that.
There's some resin in there as well, right?
So
maybe not.
No, doesn't appear to be. No. But yeah, that wing is one piece upper and lower. How bizarre. Which is fine. That makes. I mean, that's a big part. But that makes for us. That makes for a really solid, construction.
Yeah, no flex.
Fuselage halves. It's actually quite logical because of the way the wing sits with the whirlwind. It just sits on top like that.
Right.
This looks fabulous. It's absolutely gorgeous. Bearing in mind what Drew said about the guns. I think what I'll probably do with mine is I'll probably use the kit parts, but install them from the outside on the basis that I can replace them at a later date with some brass ones.
Get some master barrel.
Yeah, but that is. Oh, is that resin there? Or no, they offer resin, but they don't include it in the kit.
Yeah.
Doesn't look like you can drop the flaps on it, but we'll have a proper detailed look at this tomorrow night. But look at that! That's my favourite scheme. Oh, that is gorgeous. That is just absolutely fabulous. Look at that! Isn't that wonderful?
I'm not even a big fan of the airplane, but I gotta say this kit is making it grow on me a little bit.
As I said, Mike, growing up as a kid, when my dad built the Airfix one, it just the gun arrangement in the nose, the wing, that high tailplane, the twin engines, everything about it looked wrong, but it looked right. I mean, this is it's just fabulous. And it eventually found its forte as a ground attack aircraft, which almost makes it like an early A10 in some sorts. But that's a nice scheme.
I like that. I like the checkers on the tail bullet there.
Surprisingly, for an aircraft that I think only served with 2 squadrons, the amount of colour schemes you can wring out of this and variations in colours and markings is actually quite substantial.
2 squadrons, huh?
That's all it was. They were, as far as I remember, they were also both based in the southwest. So, we got Drew back now. So Drew's got his fuselage.
Yeah, unfortunately, my main cameras. I seem to have massive battery problems this evening. So, but yeah, it's as you can see for 30-second scale, it's not a massive model at all. But what is difficult to catch here is that the surface is actually covered in rivets as well, but really fine.
Oh, nice.
You see those?
No.
I'm trying to catch them through the.
No, it's unfortunately they're getting lost in the kind of like the pixelation.
But yeah, the wings, that's. Again, you can see it's not a big aeroplane. It's not a big aeroplane at all, really.
Man, those engines are big.
But like I say, they're only little 975 horsepower, something like that. They were, in fact, they were saying that although the aircraft has a reputation for unreliability in terms of the engines, it was actually far more reliable than an Napier Sabre in the Typhoon. But it was just that by the time, by the time that 1942, 1943 came around, you were getting stuff like the Typhoon and then the Tempest coming on board, which had the same amount of installed horsepower, the same armament, same range, same bomb load. It kind of why would you spend? Why would you keep the Whirlwind in service?
Oh, here we go. We're gonna get a sneak peek tonight of the.
Let's have a little sneak peek of the Cobra. Yeah, there's the. And that also, the entire tail boom has got beautifully riveted surfaces.
Are they raised or recessed?
Raised.
Ah, good.
They're proper. Again, I don't know if you can.
You can see those a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
But yeah, it's. But there's a lot of options in the kit. Like you've got both styles of skid. You've got 2 different styles of tail. Tail fins. What's over there? You've got early and late vertical tails with both, the reverse tail rotor that they brought in later on. Both styles of AH-1G gun turret, one with the twin minigun and rocket launcher, grenade launcher, and just the 7.62 minigun. And then you've got two of these sprues here.
All the boom stuff.
Sorry?
All the boom.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got 19 round, 7 round, the 7 round just tubes there. Tow rocket pods. So clearly there's an AH-1Q to come at least. And 7.62 millimeter gun pods.
Nice.
As well. And the other thing that I did notice, you've got the reinforcement plates for the fuselage side here for when I had the 20 millimeter Vulcan cannon installed, which saw a little bit of use in Vietnam, and the Spanish Navy used it as well. So yeah, it's a kit that's got an awful lot of options in it, and is really, really, it's really difficult to show how beautifully restrained the panel detail is, but it's utterly consistent as well. It doesn't fade in and out or anything. It's just, yeah, buy one. But that's the Cobra. So,
right.
And I don't build 32nd scale.
And that's just the 2 rotor blades, right?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, this is the original
Early version.
Original AH-1G Vietnam era. But what I really like about this is they're giving you plans for the masks. So scan them, cut your own masks.
Nice.
Brilliant. Brilliant. And that's the sort of thing that ICM are doing these days. This is why I like them so much. Complete weapons loadout schematic there, so you can pick your loadout. The color instructions are a little bit dark, but
I like the camo one.
Yeah, that's the one. That's definitely the one I will. Let's angle that a little bit. That's definitely the one I'll be doing. Is one of the very early trials ones with the camo.
Very good.
And one with some politically incorrect flags on the underside.
Whoopsie.
Yeah, why you'd have a loser's flag on a Cobra, I don't know, but could have just painted that white, really, couldn't they?
Yes, let's move on. That's right. At this stage, I think it literally is time that I do deploy the any other business.
Ding your dinger.
Any other business.
I got nothing. Fun as always.
I got nothing.
Well, like I say, we might be doing a little live pop-up tomorrow night to go into the whirlwind in a bit more detail.
Box art as well, isn't it?
It is fantastic box art. It's I'm not a massive fan of the Cobra, but I'm not a massive fan of that kind of era of helicopters, but the Cobra always just kind of gets me. And also, when you think about it, I think we discussed this. I think Spencer and I discussed this when the kit was announced. Was that prior to that kit coming out, the only other option you had in 32nd scale was the old Revell kit, which I hate to say it, it's actually the same age as me. I think it was 1967 the kit came out.
Yeah, it was concurrent with the actual aircraft entering service.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been a long time coming, hasn't it?
I mean, we've had Super Cobras in 35th scale,
Yeah.
But again, with this interesting discussion, the ICM have decided that they'd rather keep the Cobra consistent with their aircraft range rather than trying to drop it into the armor range.
I have to say, I generally speaking, I approve.
Mm.
I do generally speaking approve of that. But the other thing is, even though it's 32nd scale, the Cobra was a very skinny aeroplane. So if you've got the rotors facing fore and aft, it's not going to take up much space wherever you put it.
Maybe 4 inches across with the landing.
Yeah, maximum 4 inches across the stub wings.
Yeah,
it's going to be very, very easy to store and build multiples if you want to. Because I'd certainly there's plenty of schemes for the Cobra that I'd like to do. So, but we'll see how it goes together eventually. So yeah, that was pretty much it. I have no other business.
Mike,
I'm good.
You're good, right? Okay.
This has been a hoot. I certainly appreciate the opportunity as always, and like I said, it takes me away from the business of the business and puts me back into the hobby of the hobby. So, I
which is good for an hour or so, isn't it?
Well, you know what? It's therapy for me, and being able to talk to people with the same, with the same modeling interests. I think I brought it up before. I don't do much with our local club because it's more of how much money are we going to send to this club for their trophy package and nothing about models. So for me, this is, like I said, it's very refreshing to get out here.
Yeah, this is all about the models, isn't it?
Yeah,
this is all about the models and nothing else. Well, for the most part.
Yeah.
So.
And you're in your hand, and now your camera angle, it's actually a better version of you than you.
Do you know what, Mike? I wouldn't disagree. I wouldn't disagree. You're gonna have to try harder than that to offend me.
Believe me, I don't think you could be. So, I've known you long enough.
Ask him to share a beer. That's when the offence takes place.
Are you talking to me or Mike now?
Both.
Yeah. Or asking Spencer for a biscuit.
Do you know what? Drew, what did he say to us? What did he say to us? Help yourself to the biscuits. So we did.
You can't go help yourself and go, not like that.
Yeah. Have we repaid him with biscuits since then?
I believe so. I think he's just milking it now.
That's just some people absolutely unbelievable.
He's just milking it.
Yeah. On that note, I knew it would descend into another food-based argument at the end.
I knew it would descend into anarchy.
I know you too. I know you all too well. Right. Okay. I can hear myself echoing a bit on somebody's camera here, so I think we'll mute you for a second, Drew. It just remains to say thank you to Mike Reeves for popping by this evening. And thank you to Drew for making himself available, rather unexpectedly, but always a pleasure.
Yes, it's unexpected for me as well. So.
Well, I'll tell you a story. When we finish the show, I'll tell you that story offline as well. So it's been one of those days today. We're scheduled to be back Sunday for the news show, but we will also be, like I say, we might be doing a pop-up live tomorrow on the Special Hobby Whirlwind. How exciting. So just remains to say thank you to Drew. Thank you to Mike. Mike, as always, you are more than welcome to come back on the show anytime and lend us a perspective from a country where the weather is warm. So
I'm going to go jump in my pool.
You see, I've got a T-shirt on here, but I am absolutely this far from hypothermia now. So on that note, just makes me say thank you, Drew. Thank you, Mike. We'll see you all back scheduled Sunday. Might see you all tomorrow night. So from us all, stay safe, stay out of trouble, take care, and see you all very, very soon. So bye for now.